The Shadow Systems XR920 Foundation Series. Let's check it out. Guys, it's no secret that I'm a big fan of Glock pistols. I've been shooting them for over 30 years, and if I had one handgun, it would be the Glock 19, Gen 5 specifically. There's something about the reliability, the simplicity. I've shot over 100,000 rounds through Glock pistols. And so when I see these Glock clones come out, I'm like, okay. But on the other hand, if I'm gonna do upgrades and I'm gonna change things around and I want different slide cuts, I want more texturing on the pistol, I want it to be optics ready, which you can get the MOS version, but I want it to be, you know, something that's just upgradable. Then I understand the allure of a lot of these Glock clones. It really takes the Glock simplistic design and the reliability and it carries it to another level. I've been hearing about Shadow Systems for a long time. I mean, Shadow Systems, and you know, I was like another Glock clone. When John Lovell put his name behind Shadow Systems with his Warrior Poet models, I took a closer look. So a buddy of mine dropped off a Shadow Systems MR920, and it was the Elite. Great gun. Did a review on it. I have it annotated above. And just a lot of things. It really did impress me, I have to admit. Well, Shadow Systems got in touch with me after seeing the review and said, hey, would you like to look at the Foundation series? This is just their base model. It has all the things that made Shadow Systems very popular, but yet it brings down the price to just have the essentials. And so we're going to take a look at the Foundation series of the XR920, which is the full-size grip with the shorter G19 slide. Very similar to your Model 45 or your G19X, which honestly is my favorite shooting Glock. There's something about the leverage of the grip and the less slide mass that, for me, make it very flat shooting and very appealing. But with the longer grip, you know, it's harder to conceal. And so I don't necessarily carry the G19X or the XR920, but this makes an excellent sidearm. Shadow Systems, honestly, guys, there's a reason why there's such a buzz about that company. And we thank Shadow Systems for sending the XR920 Foundation series for this review. The Shadow Systems Foundation series. We're going to take a look at what makes this a foundation gun, why Shadow Systems has come out with this, and also some of the quality that Shadow Systems puts into their firearms. Now again, guys, I'm a huge Glock guy, and you know, here I've got my Glock Model 45, which is in that X type series of the 17 round magazine, and then your Glock 19 size slide. And I do love the way that these shoot. And of course my Glock 19X, definitely one of my favorite guns. Now one of the things about this though is that a lot of guys will take these guns and they'll just completely redo them. Me personally, I like the stock firearms. I like them just like they are. I don't typically change a whole lot. Definitely will put on some night sights, may put on a Wheaton Arms flat-faced Elite trigger, but otherwise I'm good to go, especially now that they have the front slide serrations. But one of the things about these Glocks is that a lot of people do like to take their existing Glock and change it. And Shadow Systems has kind of come in and put together a beautiful firearm and really has upgraded Glock perfection with a lot of upgrades. And we're going to take a look at those. This is the XR920, which is, again, the 17 round magazine with the compact size slide. with the Foundation Series, price is the goal here. And the manufacturer suggested retail price is $679. Now, market price is going to be considerably less. Compared to the Combat model, which is $1,046 MSRP, and the Elite model is $1,164. This brings this down to a much more affordable option. And we're going to look at some of the reasons and some of the differences between the Combat, the Elite, and the Foundation Series. Now, we did a review on the Shadow Systems MR920, and this is the Elite Edition. Definitely has a lot of upgrades. Again, right around the slide area. The bronze barrel, the open windows in the slide, deeper slide serrations. I mean, it definitely has a lot more going for it, but obviously it's quite a bit more expensive. But the frame is the same. And really the gripability, the way this gun shoots, it should be really close. It doesn't have all those fancy bells and whistles, but it makes up for it for where it counts. And that's really the big thing, is this gives you what you need and not necessarily a lot of extra. And so to me, it's a really solid handgun for a considerable less amount of money. We're going to drop our magazine, which it does come again with a 17-round magazine. These are P-Mags. It comes with 2. Check the chamber, and the gun is empty. Now, one of the things about the price cuts are, what are we losing? Now, first off, Shadow Systems says that the frame is exactly the same. The frame is a polymer frame. It does have some really nice texturing on here. One thing that I really love about the Shadow Systems, and a lot of companies are starting to go with this, is this recoil ledge. And so as I place my two-handed grip, high ride grip on here, I rest my thumb on that ledge, and it helps to mitigate the recoil. And guys, that is a big deal. And the more that you start to practice with it, you will notice that it just gives you more leverage, more control over the firearm. And I really like that feature. This one has a nice ledge, and it has this texturing behind it. Gives your thumb a really solid place to sit. Another thing that they've done is increased the fence that goes around your slide stop. And most of them are pretty minimal. And we'll look here at this Glock. It's just got a small little ledge. With the Shadow Systems, it just gives you a little more protection. And it's closer to the frame, so you're not going to inadvertently hit that. One thing I also like is the beaver tail. Now, one thing about most of your Glocks, they have a back strap that'll fit with a beaver tail, but it increases the thickness of the grip. And for me, I have about medium-sized hands. I don't like it. I do use it on some of my large frame Glocks, like my 10mm, my Glock 20s, but I typically don't like it. The one thing about the Shadow Systems is it's already incorporated, but their backstrap system is completely different than most of your other firearm companies. You get 3 different back straps. This is more of your 1911 style, and I put this one on here because I love to shoot 1911s. But if you're used to shooting SIGs or HKs or different type pistols, this may throw you off. And so having this back strap does not increase necessarily the thickness of the grip, especially up here where your trigger finger comes around, and it gives that trigger control, which is very important. It just gives you a different sight alignment. And so whatever your natural point of aim is I bring up the gun and I point at a target, I check to see where my natural point of aim is. And so this will allow you to get your natural point of aim. It doesn't necessarily increase the thickness of the grip. And that's something that I've really been impressed with Shadow Systems. But the texturing all around, it is not so aggressive that it hurts. It's very well done. You feel it all the way through, and it gives you a good solid grip on your firearm. It allows you to get really high on the low bore axis. And then with this beaver tail, it's actually cut down. Now it's extended out a little bit from the MR918, but this is the 920 that has that extended beaver tail. Also here with the undercut on the frame. I mean, right here under the trigger guard, this is a very important part for me. I get Glock knuckle, and this really helps when I'm shooting a lot of rounds. And then they have this undercut here. So as I'm gripping here and I'm bringing my hand up, it compensates for the undercut, which allows you to get another natural point of aim. Also, with the Glock, it's kind of thick right here, and then has that little nub that sticks out, and they've removed that, which personally I'm glad they did. Now on the front, they also have a pad of texturing that sits on the front. So if you like to shoot it with your finger around the trigger guard, it gives you a little advantage. I personally don't. And one thing that I'm really fond of is no finger grooves on the front, which it's incorporated. And of course the Gen 5 goes with no finger grooves, but your Gen 3 and 4 has them. Mag release has been changed to the high traction mag release. One thing about this pistol over your Gen 3s is that you can switch it to the other side. And that's one of the downsides with the Gen 3. With the Gen 4, you could switch it. And so this incorporates some of the Gen 4 features. And your accessory rail is one slot like your standard Glock pistols. But now one big difference is that we have a beveled mag well. And most of the Shadow systems come with an external mag well, which this also has that flare. And you can add one of those extended mag wells, but this is cutting down on the price. And so it allows those mags to come in at different angles and easy to get them in and out. Also with the Foundation series on the slide cuts. Now it has front and rear slide cuts. They are more shallow than the standard slide cuts on the Combat and the Elite model. And so it just gives you a little less texturing, but they are very easy to grip, and it gives you a little bit of a ledge right here when you're doing press checks. So, these are very serviceable, but they're not quite as deep as the Elite or the Combat. Now it is optics ready, and they do have the patent optics cuts, which Shadow Systems does, where a number of different optics will fit. I think that's a big deal. There are multiple cuts. Then removing the optics plate, because I want to show you these screws actually accommodate almost all of your manufacturers that produce different optics. And guys, the original was only for the RMR footprint, but this gives you a lot of options. They even went so far as to redesign the extractor system. And so this is going to be pretty unique in the industry. Again, you get a polymer plate instead of the machined aluminum with the Combat or the Elite. And the screws they send with this pistol, I mean, this is a really deep screw. It's according to the height of the optic, but this definitely gives you a really solid purchase onto the slide. And you mount it directly to the slide. You don't have adapter plates or any kind of shims. And there's also spacers because some optics are a little bit longer than others. It just gives you more advantages. Now on the Elite, they have cocking serrations at the top. Also, they have ported slides here on either side and at the top, and those of course are only with the Elite. The Combat doesn't have it, but the others have 4 serrations at the front. They are really deep, and then they have 6 serrations at the back, and again they're deep, but these again are very serviceable slide serrations. The edges are beveled and the slide is beveled, so it gives it a little bit more ease into holsters, and it just makes it a very nice appearance. Not so blocky as the Glock. Has a very thick slide. It's known for that. This just trims it down some. Another thing that the Shadow Systems does, even in their Foundation series, is they have metal sights. So the rear is a blacked out serrated sight. The front sight is just a post with a white dot. With the Elite and the Combat series, they have tritium night sights. But again, these are metal, and they are higher than your typical Glock sights. And that way, it will co-witness with most of your red dots. Now, the XR920 and the MR920 have 4-inch barrels. This is a black nitride finish, and it is smooth. On the other models, they have a fluted barrel. But it is, again, a match-grade barrel. And so you're going to get that consistency, and yet you don't have the expense of the fluting. And this also comes in just the black instead of the bronze barrel, which is with the Elite and the Combat. Now one big change is the trigger. With the Foundation series, it has a polymer trigger. With the Elite and Combat models, it has an aluminum trigger. Now you still have your trigger safety right here, which has to be depressed before the trigger can fire. And so we're going to check the trigger pull action. So we have some take up. Right to here we hit a wall. Little bit of stacking, and then the break. This is a little less trigger weight than your standard Glock, but it feels like a Glock trigger. Reset right there. Let's check the trigger pull weight with our Lyman trigger gauge from Brownells. 4 pounds, 2.6 ounces. 4 pounds, 10.6 ounces. That's lighter than your typical Glock trigger. I mean, honestly, guys, these have 2 totally different looks to them. the black nitride finish on the Shadow Systems, and then we have more of a, what used to be a Tenifer finish. They've gone away from it, but it still has that unique Glock finish on it, which is really nice. I mean, it has a good clean look to it. But the black nitride is excellent. I'm a big fan of black nitride. Some people say don't call it black nitride, but it's black and it's nitride. And again, the barrel's also black nitrided. Also, the cavity that's typically there on the Glock has been filled in with the Shadow Systems. But that cavity does have a purpose, and it's in case you need to strip the magazine out in case of a malfunction. Here with the P-Mags, if you have just a little bit of a grip on here, it does have a little bit of a ledge, you can pull it down. But even with the Glock magazine, there's enough gap there. If you have to pull this thing out, you can. And you can get it from the back without putting your finger up into the frame. And so while that is definitely something that Glock incorporated, I haven't really had to use that. Typically, I can hit it and pull it out without any trouble. And that's with most of my Glocks. One thing that's been a little bit of a controversy with Shadow Systems is that they say that you need a 200 round break-in period. I've seen where they've talked about that, and this is not any different than any other pistol. And honestly, guys, you need to have that break-in period, especially if you're planning to have something for self-defense. There could be burrs, there can be little differences where you need to shoot it at 200 rounds. And that goes with every pistol that you own and that you carry for self-defense or you depend on it for home defense. Weight on the Shadow Systems XR920 Foundation. 1 pound, 5.6 ounces. Weight on the Glock Model 45. 1 pound, 8.6 ounces. Definitely that thicker slide adds a little bit of weight. We really appreciate Fiocchi for sponsoring the ammo, all made in the USA. One of the biggest suppliers of ammunition in the country. We also really appreciate Lula Loaders when we're loading up all these Glock mags. Tell you what, guys, that shelf, I'm loving that on different pistols, but this really gives you just a little bit of that shelf, plus it has that texturing right beside it. You're not slipping off of it. The texturing on the grip is just right. It's not too aggressive, but yet it's aggressive enough. Of course, it's got that little beaver tail, which just allows it to really just kind of nestle in and gives you that low bore axis. The sights are a little high, which I kind of like, because it's going to co-witness with a red dot when you put it on there. I'm telling you, that really tames the recoil. Beautiful gun, Glock-like. We're down to 1 round. I mean, we've had no malfunctions. We've put about 500 rounds through it so far. We're still working on it. I'm a big Glock fan, but there's some features on this gun, and this is their Foundation series, that it's just really nice. The slide serrations, aggressive enough, I mean, to where you can get them. Better than the Glock. If you're looking to upgrade your Glock, I think this is a great option. Plus, I like it that they've cut off that nub at the end of the trigger guard. So, overall, Shadow Systems has been putting out some really cool Gen 3 type firearms, Gen 4. And this is just really a great option. And it's toward the more reasonable price, which makes it nice. We're also testing the PL3 Valkyrie from Olight. We're putting a 10,000 round torture test, and I'm using the Shadow Systems X for this test as well as other guns. But that gives me a lot of experience behind this gun. So we're going to check it out. Beautiful. This is an incredible light. Now we're going to go ahead and break down the pistol, and we're going to drop our magazine, check to make sure the gun's unloaded. Just like the Glock, pull the trigger, pull back on the slide, pull down your takedown levers, and it comes right off. The recoil spring is carbon steel instead of the standard stainless steel of the Elite and the Combat, but it is the flat spring recoil springs, and it's more of the Gen 4 style recoil spring. And then I'm going to pull out our barrel. Again, this is a black nitride barrel, beautifully finished. Yes, it doesn't have the fluting, but you know, man, that's just a lot for looks. Slide, we've definitely shot this quite a bit, but it really looks nice inside. Very well done. I mean, Shadow Systems does an excellent job. You have your striker safety right here, and of course your strikers here. Very much, obviously, like the Glock. Frame, same thing. Very well done. And, you know, these just function very well. And guys, that's all you need to do to field strip. To reassemble, drop in your barrel, your recoil spring and guide rod, and bring your slide over your frame. Function check, good to go. So guys, why choose the Shadow Systems Foundation Series over your standard Glock? You know, Glock, it's a Glock. And there are some limitations to the Glocks, but again, I'm a huge fan. I love Glocks. But I do get this grip angle difference. I mean, if I want to go with more of a 1911 grip angle, I can do that. I can include the other straps to fit whatever I want to. We have our beveled magwell, which the Gen 5 also has that. The texturing on the Gen 5 with the pyramid shapes, it's pretty aggressive. I like it. This has a more softer touch to it. You're able to get a hold of it and manipulate the firearm, and yet it's not too sticky to be able to change your hands around if you need to drop your magazines and different manipulations that you need to do to the gun. Slide serrations I really like. No, they're not as deep as the Combat or the Elite, but they're very serviceable and really more directional than your standard Glock serrations. I like the undercut with the trigger, and I like that this has been removed. Triggers are pretty close. The trigger pull weight on the Shadow Systems Foundation is going to be a little bit less than your standard Glock pistol. It is going to be optics ready, and it's going to fit a multitude of different red dots. Sights are metal, and you can switch this out for a night sight if you want. I like the magazine release. It's very definite. And of course this guard that fits around right here. So Shadow Systems has really come out with more of a reasonable price firearm that really matches down toward more where the Glock is, and yet they do offer their Elite and their Combat models if you want to take it up a notch. And of course the Foundation Series is not only offered in this XR920 but also the MR920, which is that Glock 19 size, or the DR920, which is your standard Model 17.
Guys, in a sea of Glock clones, I mean, there's a lot of different options out there, and a lot of them are excellent. But I think Shadow Systems has really put themselves above in a lot of aspects. And really bringing the price down with this Foundation Series, it lets you get into what made Shadow Systems really exceptional. And yet, you're not paying that high price for the Elite Series, or for that matter, even the Combat Series. And yet, you're getting all the advantages of Shadow Systems. Whether it's the Elite, the Combat, or the Foundation Series, I think Shadow Systems has really put together some excellent firearms. And again, guys, it just gives us more choices. If you like Glock, stick with Glock. But if you want something that kind of takes it to another level, I think Shadow Systems has done that. And we thank Shadow Systems for sending the XR920 Foundation Series for this review.
Rubber Dummies is one of the best training tools on the market, and you get a 10% discount using Sootch00 when you click the link down in the description.
Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America, long live the Republic.
really help in a easy to change, no problems. I mean, it's just no problem, no problem, no problem.
Things about these have been just told over the generations of gun lore.
Concealed carry rotation. I do carry other guns, but come on, people. Come on, people. These people driving on this road like they own it. I guess they do own it.